ready, come and get it. Na 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 na. When you're ready, come and get it.
Hey guys, today I am bringing you a flawless face foundation routine. This is a very full coverage type of deal, kind of suitable for nights out with the girls or guys, I don't know, and or like photos. So it's very full on. It's using, you know, all stuff that will look good in photos, if that makes sense. This has been my kind of go-to with a few tweaks here and there since last year around this time, and I thought it was the perfect time to put this up as we head into the school year, so that way if you're, you know, going out with your friends, you have a nice look to accomplish. And this is actually all drugstore products, so it's going to be very affordable. Couple things to note: this is, of course, as I mentioned, a full coverage look. This is not a daytime look. It's not too heavy looking in person, but it's a lot heavier looking in person than it will come across on cameras. So it's more designed for photos and like nights out, and it is a lot of steps, so that's another reason I wouldn't recommend it for daytime. Also, a thing to note is that with all these steps, not all of them are necessary. I'm going to mention as we go kind of how I oftentimes do tweak this look when I wear it. There are days when I wear less. There are days when I wear exactly this much, so it just depends on what I'm feeling that day. But this is kind of, I wanted to show you each and every trick I have for a night out makeup. And I actually forgot to set my makeup, so I'm going to do that. This is the NYX Dewy Finish Setting Spray. I do often use this when I do this look because it can be a bit heavy feeling and looking without it. So that is the look. If you'd like to see how I got this foundation look, then please stay tuned. Okay, so the eyes are half done, so excuse that, but I just wanted to be able to show you kind of the full look. Sometimes I do it before my eye makeup, it depends what I'm doing, but since today was so smoky, I'm starting off with part of the eyes already done. Okay, so let's roll in. So for today's foundation look, I am going to be showing you kind of the most full coverage option I have. So I'm going to be using a primer. I like to use it when I'm using the thicker foundation because it helps to blend it, but I don't always use primer. This is the L'Oreal Revitalift Miracle Blur Instant Skin Smoother. It's oil free. This one retails for about $20 at the drugstore, so for me, I don't think it's really worth it. It's nothing amazing. I think you could maybe just spend a little bit more and get like professional by benefit, but you know, it gets the job done and it is available at the drugstore, so that might be nice for some of you. So I'm just wearing that mainly in the T-zone area, so like where I have pores really, so like nose, right here, and then just a little on the forehead because sometimes I have trouble getting my foundation to blend up there. So I do my concealer next. I always like to use something in like a roller ball format that's just going to give a little brightness, nothing crazy, at least to start, and then I can add more if I need it. This is the Revlon Age Defying concealer in light. I usually use the Maybelline one, but I'm out and I decided to give this a go, so I haven't actually used this yet, but I really do love the Maybelline Instant Age Rewind one if you are looking for a tried and true favorite of mine. So I'm going to pop this kind of right in the inner corner. I don't generally conceal my whole eye area because I don't have crazy dark circles, so I just put it mainly in the inner bit. I'm also going to put a little on my brow bone and down like my nose, or yeah, just my brow bone for now, and then I'll do more highlighting once I do the foundation. So just gonna get a little of this. Wow, that is a lot thicker than I expected. Okay, so this one is a lot thicker than the Maybelline one, so I'm just going to use a brush. This is the e.l.f. Flawless Concealer Brush. I will be using this later as well, but I generally, for this first step, would use my fingers with the Maybelline one. And if it's not totally blended out, that's okay because we are still applying our foundation and stuff, so that will help blend it. So for foundation, for a routine like this, I like something without SPF because for me this is a photography oriented look, so I don't need anything with SPF. And I have quite a few options I want to share with you, which I guess I'll just go ahead and kind of do a split screen and show you them as I do my foundation, so we're not wasting too much time here. The one I'm using today is the thickest, most full coverage option. I don't actually know if this color is a good match for me right now because I use it all year round. This is the Revlon Colorstay Whipped Cream Foundation in Sand Beige, probably my holy grail foundation, the only one really I've come back to all the time, and it goes a little bit, goes a very long way, so I really never have to repurchase this. What I do is I store it upside down so that the product kind of gathers on this little lid thing, and that just makes it a little easier for me as I apply it. What I like to do with my foundation is just take it and dot it kind of in, mainly my cheeks is where I need coverage because I have some like scarring and stuff, and then, you know, a little down the nose, a little in the center. And especially with a foundation this full, like heavy and full coverage, I recommend blending from your center of your face outwards because it's going to make sure you don't get a harsh, like a cake face look, because it can be very easy with a foundation like this if you don't blend it out right. The brush I like to use with this foundation is the Real Technique stippling brush. I also use this for many other steps in my routine, so it's kind of like my go-to. With some of these other foundations I mentioned, that I do like the e.l.f. powder brush, which is kind of a flat top deal. So I love a stippling brush for a heavier coverage foundation, and this for a more liquid foundation, just as a general rule of thumb. So I'm going to start buffing this in. I think this brush does a great job. It keeps it from looking too heavy. I'm going to do a split screen and show you the other foundations I use as I'm blending this in. I have found 4 other drugstore options that are SPF free. There might be more. Let me know if you know any from the drugstore or high-end that are SPF. This one's a little pricier, but it's the Neutrogena Skin Clearing oil-free makeup, and my shade is Buff. This foundation I find is the most natural looking of this bunch I have here. It doesn't look too dewy, it doesn't look too matte, because the one I'm wearing right now can look a little matte, which sometimes you don't. This next one I have I don't actually like all that much, but it does look really nice in photos, but in person not quite as nice, so keep that in mind. But this is the Covergirl Clean Whipped Cream Foundation in the shade, I think it's Buff Beige. Yeah, this one I recommend more for oilier skin types. The Colorstay Whipped Cream I think works nice for any skin type. This one is a bit drier looking on the skin, so for me it's not always the best, but if you have an oilier skin you might actually prefer. Then these other two are from Covergirl too. They have a lot of SPF free foundations. This one I really love. This is the TruBlend liquid makeup. Mine's really messy, but it's also in Buff Beige. This one looks a lot dewier on the skin than any of the other foundations I'm mentioning, so if you have a drier skin like me, this one can be really nice just for a quick, it just evens out the skin a little bit. It looks nice in photos, but it's not heavy on the skin. So that one's really nice, and it has a pump, which is great. And then this last one's newer to me, so I'm kind of still playing with it, but it's the CoverGirl Ready Set Gorgeous Fresh Complexion Oil-Free Foundation in Buff Beige as well. I just kind of always buy that shade from CoverGirl. Yeah, this one is a very light coverage. It's really nice finish. I'm just not quite sure on the coverage, so if you have really great skin though, I think you'd like this. But yeah, those are just a few options for you.
I just walked away.
And that foundation does blend really beautifully over that primer. It really makes it easy. At this point, a step that I sometimes take that I'm not going to today is I would take a wet beauty blender. This is the Real Techniques one, the Miracle Blending Sponge or whatever it's called, and I'll tap in any places where it looks like there's brush marks. I don't really have that problem today. It really did blend in nicely. I got a good mount down, so I don't have that problem, but if you do, I recommend having one of those on hand. I don't ever really use it to apply my foundation, but I will use it as a blending step if necessary. I like to do a little cream highlighting and contouring on these days when I want a very flawless face. As far as highlighting, you can use really whatever you want. I'm just going to use the Maybelline Fit Me because it will add a little extra coverage under the eyes as well. This is in Fair. I also use this concealer on my blemishes, so it's kind of a dual purpose deal. I'm just going to pop this kind of like right here for a little extra lift to the cheeks, as well as down, the hair, down my nose, a little on the forehead, forehead. This is for highlighting, and down the chin. I'll also come back to this in a minute to show you what I do if I have blemishes. To blend that in, I'm just going to go in with the Flawless Concealer brush. I recently picked this up and I really love it. Sometimes I use that stippling brush for this step, but this one helps me to get even more precise in the areas, so I'm just going to use this today. So then we're going to go in and do the similar process, but with the contour, and I really love this for contour. It's just a concealer stick, so it's something you can get at the drugstore very easily. This is the L'Oreal True Match Super Blendable Crayon Concealer in N678. So it's a neutral tone, which you want. You don't want anything too warm. You could go cool tone if you want, but I think neutral tone is a little bit more forgiving. And I'm going to take this right under my cheekbone right here, not going far in because it goes a long way, and if you get too much it's going to look crazy. So just a little bit, and then I do a couple stripes up here across my forehead. You could do the nose. I don't generally because I feel like a cream on there can look a little much. And then I just take my brush that I use for foundation. This is really good for buffing it in because it's firm but gives you enough of a blend. So I'm going to do that, and when I blend this, what I do is I kind of take it like just first from the cheek, and you want to blend it upwards. If you blend it downwards, it's going to have kind of an opposite effect of giving that cheekbone lift. And then I blend it kind of up through the temples and into where I put it on the forehead. This makes it all blend together a little nicer, and it will add a little color right there, even though we didn't apply any specifically right there. Make sure you're blending all this into the hairline so it looks natural. I should say. I don't really have any blemishes at the moment, and that foundation, I usually don't generally need to cover any blemishes when I use that foundation because it is such a full coverage. If you want to cover blemishes, this is how I do it. So I'm going to show you on just like a scar I have. Let me see. What's the worst one? Like this one right here, and I guess I'll do this one over here too. So I just dot a little bit on there like so. This is really handy because it has that brush. I know a lot of people say don't put the brush directly on your blemishes, but these are scars, so I don't really find it to be an issue. And I'm going to let that set for a minute, during which time I'm going to go do my brows just to multitask, get the job done. I'm not going to show you the brows because for me that's a whole separate video, and I also just uploaded a review and tutorial using the product that I use, which is the Defying. So if you're interested in that, I'll link it below. If you want a whole like brow routine, just showing you without the review separate or the review portion, then let me know and I can do that. So I'm going to do my brows and I'll be back in a minute. Once brows are done, I just go into the same brush and I dab it in. We're just really pressing it, kind of what the motion I call it is pouncing. I don't know if that's the correct phrase, but whatever. And I just find that gives you the optimum coverage and still gets it nice and buffed in. So that is the cream stuff done. Now onto powder, and I do full on everything. So obviously you can not powder if you don't want to, but for something that's supposed to be flawless and long wearing or whatever, I obviously want to powder. I just like the way it makes the skin look. This is the Almay Nearly Naked Loose Powder. I have both the shades light, medium, and light. Light medium because I'm dark right now. I will say they don't seem to carry this anymore. I looked at the store, but they have a loose powder by Almay called the Smart something or other, which I'm assuming is the same formula. I haven't tried it, so I can't say for sure. Let me know below any of your favorite like loose powders, because I love the way a loose powder looks over foundation, like a full-on foundation look, because I think it just kind of will blend in a little better than a pressed powder might. What I do with this is I press it into the brush, tap off any excess, press again, tap, and then I go in with the back of my hand and tap on there, and you can see a lot of excess comes up. So, you know, all of that would be going on your face at once if you don't take enough precautions. So take as little as you can and just start. I kind of start down here. My biggest concern is transfer, so like onto whatever clothing I'm wearing. So just buffing that all over my face, and just, you know, we'll go with whatever's on the hand next. I find I actually don't use very much of this, even though I am powdering the whole skin. It just doesn't take a lot. That's why I love loose powder again, because it's just like I'm never going to go through it really. Another reason I choose to powder is it's going to help my powder products that I put on top settle a little better. Okay? set my brush aside because I'm going to use that to blend out like all the powder products that go on my face, because I really love it to look like airbrush. Sometimes when I'm setting my under eyes or my nose, I'll use this product, which is the Wet n Wild Color Icon Bronzer in Reserve. You can ban it. It's like got a slight shimmer to it, but it's a mostly like matte highlighting type color, and I love to use that. But since it's warmer weather right now, I think that kind of will break up. But in the winter time, I love that. And I'm going to go ahead and pop on a bit of my like contours bronzers. For contour, I don't always do contour. It depends what kind of look I'm going for, but if I do, I use the Real Techniques. I just love Real Techniques face brushes, in case you haven't noticed. This is the Duo Fiber Contour Brush, and I use that with a bit of MAC's Wedge. It's this cooler tone transition color. I'm actually wearing it on my eyes today. But I take a little of that and I go kind of cut down along my cheekbone, like that. Just going to add a little bit extra shape. Like I said, not this is totally optional, but I have round cheeks, so I find this quick little bit can make a big difference. And then I go in with a warmer toned color for my actual bronzing, just because I have warmer skin. So if I use a cool tone bronzer everywhere, it can look a little unnatural actually. This is the Essence Sun Club bronzer for brunettes, as you can see, well loved by me. And again, I'm using kind of the rest of that trio that comes from Real Techniques, the Duo Fiber brushes. This is the Duo Fiber eye brush, and I use this to contour my nose. And what I do with this is kind of pick up a little and go right along the side of my nose. I just prefer contouring the nose with powder because you can blend it away a little easier. Go along the tip as well because I kind of have a longer nose versus wider. Okay. And then I go in with this bigger brush, which is the Duo Fiber Face Brush, and I'm just going to use that for some warming of the cheeks, you know, forehead, cheeks, all that. These Duo Fiber brushes are my favorites for adding these colors to my cheeks because it keeps them soft, helps them blend a lot easier. It really takes a lot of the work out of it. And then I'm going to make sure that that's well blended, particularly on the nose, because you don't want it to look like you contoured your nose. That's the basic idea. I'm going to finish up my makeup and that'll be that. Okay, so that is my foundation look. I hope you guys found this helpful. If you did, be sure to like it below. Subscribe to see more from me, and I'll talk to you very soon. Have a good day. Bye.
There's no going back. Oh, mark my words, this love will make you levitate like a bird without a cage.